What if the ultimate power move isn't what you say, but what you deliberately choose to leave unspoken? Most of us operate under a deep, unspoken fear, the fear that silence equals surrender. We've been conditioned to believe that if we don't answer the accusation, we're admitting guilt. If we don't counter the insult, we're accepting it as truth. This instinct is so powerful that it feels physically uncomfortable to let a challenging statement hang in the air, unanswered. Our minds scream for us, defend, to explain, to push back. But this urgency is precisely the trap. When you leap to fill the silence, you are no longer acting from a place of strategy, you are reacting from a place of programming. The person who launched the verbal dart wasn't looking for a debate. They were looking for a string to pull. They wanted to see if they could make you dance. The comment, the jab, the question, it's all just bait. The real goal is to see you get emotionally hooked, to watch you lose your composure and start justifying your existence to them. The instant you do, the power dynamic inverts. You are now performing for them, trying to regain their approval or prove your worth. They become the puppeteer, and your emotions become the puppet. This is the great misunderstanding of social conflict. We think the fight is about logic or truth, but it's almost always about control. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of political strategy, understood that true leverage in human affairs rarely, comes from brute force or louder arguments. It comes from the regulation of perception and emotion. He saw that the person who cannot be emotionally moved holds an almost unassailable position. When you refuse to engage, when you starve the conflict of your emotional energy, something remarkable happens. The aggressor, expecting a fight, suddenly finds themselves in an empty room. Their strategy, which depended on your participation, collapses. Your silence doesn't make you a victim, it makes you avoid, and avoid is terrifying because it cannot be fought. In this video, we will dissect 7 psychological laws forged in the crucible of Machiavellian thought that reveal why strategic disengagement is one of the most potent weapons in your social arsenal. You will learn how your non-reaction can become a force that unbalances even the most skilled provocateur, quietly transferring the weight of the interaction onto their shoulders, because the most formidable person in any room isn't the one shouting the loudest. It's the one who remains a calm, still center while the storm rages around them. Before we descend into the depths of this psychology, type this into the comments to anchor your intention. My attention is my power. Number 1. The shattered mirror. The human ego is a fragile construct, constantly seeking validation. It craves proof of its own existence and significance, and it finds this proof in the reflection of others' reactions. Every comment, every critical look, every passive-aggressive remark carries with it a silent demand. React to me, so I know I am real. When someone insults you and you flush with anger, you have just handed them a polished mirror showing their impact. When you scramble to defend a decision, you are reflecting their power to question you. You are showing them that their words have the gravity to alter your emotional landscape. This is the fuel they run on. They are not listening to your arguments, they are watching your face for the twitch, the flinch, the tell that confirms their entry into your mind. But what happens when you refuse to hold up the mirror? When the barb is met with a blank, unreadable expression, or worse, a calm shift of attention to something else entirely? The mirror doesn't just crack, it shatters into 1,000 pieces. The provocateur who was leaning in to admire their reflection in your reaction suddenly sees nothing. Their words, carefully chosen to provoke, vanish into a silent void. Initially, this creates confusion. Their brain, wired for predictable patterns, receives no expected feedback. It's the psychological equivalent of reaching for the next step on a staircase that isn't there. This absence is profoundly unsettling. The mind abhors a vacuum of meaning. It will immediately begin to spiral, asking questions you never had to utter. Was I not clear enough? Did they not hear me? Are they so above me that my words are beneath their notice? This uncertainty is the beginning of their unraveling. We all rely on feedback loops to calibrate our social standing. A manager expects a nod of agreement. A critic expects a defensive retort. A manipulator expects a flicker of hurt. When these signals are severed, the brain loses its GPS. Imagine shouting into a canyon and hearing no echo. The first time it's odd. The second time it's unnerving. By the third time you start to question the reality of the canyon itself. That is what your strategic silence does to them. The absence of a reaction forces them to confront a terrifying possibility. They are inconsequential in your world. A heated argument, at its core, is a form of twisted acknowledgement. It says, "You exist in my reality." Silence, however, quietly deletes them from it. True strategists understand this. Attention is currency. Every defensive word you speak is an investment in their ego. Every angry retort is a dividend paid to their sense of control. By remaining silent, you liquidate that investment. The provocateur is left speaking into a void, and a void has a way of amplifying one's own insecurities. They will replay the moment, try harder, get louder, each attempt not a sign of strength, but a desperate plea for the mirror they shattered. Their need for validation becomes painfully exposed, while you remain a portrait of composure. This stark contrast is the first fracture in the power dynamic. As Machiavelli observed, men are quick to change their nature when their reflections show them something they cannot bear to see. Number 2. The ambiguity of status beneath every conversation, every tense meeting, every simple exchange. A silent calculation is constantly running in the human brain. It is a prehistoric algorithm asking one question: where do I stand in relation to this person? This is the negotiation of status, an invisible hierarchy we are all sorted into in real time. We gauge confidence, emotional stability, and reactivity to place ourselves and others on the social ladder. The strange, and often self-defeating, part is that most people voluntarily hand over the keys to their own status without even realizing it. When someone throws a verbal jab and you immediately feel the need to defend your honor, you feel your heart sink and your mind goes blank. You have just announced that their opinion matters enough to require a correction. When you react with visible anger, you are signaling that they have the power to push your buttons. These reactions are data points. They tell the other person, "Your actions can move me. You have influence over my internal state." And influence, once granted, is almost impossible to take back without a fight. But when you meet provocation with calm indifference, you delete that data. You scramble the algorithm. The other person is left with a critical piece of missing information. They cannot calculate your status because you have refused to provide the emotional metrics they need. Did your silence come from a place of fear, or from a place of such supreme confidence that their little game is simply not worth your time? The human mind cannot easily resolve this question, and this inability to resolve creates what we call status ambiguity. We are hardwired to crave clarity in social structures. Ambiguity is cognitively expensive and emotionally uncomfortable. When people can't figure out where they stand, they will often escalate their behavior to force a reaction that will finally provide that clarity. They will repeat the insult, make it sharper, add a layer of public humiliation, anything to get a read on you. But every failed attempt deepens the ambiguity. Their position, which they assumed was dominant, now looks desperate. They are the one trying harder. They are the one filling the silence with noise. And in that effort, a quiet inversion of status takes place. Observers don't analyze the nuance of the original insult. They see a simple picture. One person is aggressively demanding a reaction, and the other is so calm they might as well be a statue. The desperate demand for attention is a lower status behavior. The calm refusal to engage is a higher status signal. Your silence has not only protected your position, it has redefined the entire hierarchy without you lifting a finger. As Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few feel what you are." By appearing unshakable, you become it in the eyes of others. Your undefined status becomes a position of immense psychological leverage, forcing them to work harder and harder to solve a puzzle that has no solution while you simply observe. Number 3. The unyielding wall. We are taught that strength is active, that power is a force that pushes back. When someone attacks, our instinct is to push back twice as hard. This creates a very clear dynamic, a battlefield with two opposing sides. It's a game both people understand, with rules of engagement, attacks, and parries. But by entering this structure, you are no longer in control. The environment, you are just a participant within it. Strategic silence offers a different path. It doesn't present an opposing force, it presents an immovable object. It's the difference between a boxing match and punching a wall of solid granite. The provocateur swings their verbal fist, expecting the satisfying impact of your emotional reaction. But instead of a reaction, they encounter nothing. Their energy hits your invisible wall and dissipates. They push with sarcasm. No movement. They push with a direct insult. Still nothing. They try public embarrassment, hoping to force a flinch. Your composure remains intact. This is not the passive experience they were prepared for. It is deeply frustrating because it provides no feedback. The human brain navigates social situations by reading reactions. When those reactions are absent, it's like driving a car with no dashboard. You have no idea how fast you're going, how much fuel you have left, or if the engine is about to blow. This frustration is the fuel for their own self-destruction. To break through the wall, they escalate. Their voice gets louder, their words more pointed, their body language more aggressive. But every escalation does one thing. It reveals them. It shows that they are investing more and more energy into a dynamic you have already left. They are sweating while you are cool. They are shouting while you are silent. This contrast is the reversal. The person seeking engagement begins to look unhinged, and the person refusing to engage begins to look like the only stable force in the room. The wall is powerful because it removes the reward. The provocateur isn't looking for truth, they're looking for the dopamine hit of your reaction. When that reward is consistently withheld, the interaction becomes pointless. Their attempts to provoke you transform from a game into a chore and eventually into a source of personal irritation. Some will walk away, baffled and defeated. Others will stay and make fools of themselves. Either way, the power has shifted. You have defended your psychological territory not by building higher walls of argument, but by building one wall of absolute non-participation. As Machiavelli said, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The fool fights. The wise man simply refuses the battlefield. Number 4. The gravity of the unfinished normal human conflict has a rhythm. Provocation, reaction, escalation, resolution. The resolution might be slam door, a tearful apology, or just mutual exhaustion. But it has an ending, and that ending allows the mind to file the experience away. It's done. It's in the past. This is what the provocateur is counting on, a quick, satisfying interaction that puts you in your place and allows them to move on, energized by your distress. But what happens when you remove the reaction from the sequence? The rhythm is broken. The song stops mid-chord. There is no resolution. This is where a psychological principle called the Zeigarnik effect comes into play. Our brains have a powerful need for closure. We remember interrupted or unfinished tasks far better than completed ones. Your silence creates a profoundly unfinished interaction. The person who threw the verbal stone is now left holding it with no target to throw it at. They replay the moment. What did I say? Why didn't they react? What does it mean? The mind gets stuck in a loop. The few seconds of interaction you shared start to occupy minutes, then hours of their mental space. This is delayed psychological gravity. The emotional weight of the moment doesn't land on you at the time of impact. Instead, it slowly pulls on them over the following hours and days. Your silence acts as a question mark that their mind cannot stop trying to answer. They imagine scenarios. They project their own insecurities onto your blank expression. Some will conclude you think they're a fool. Others will fear you saw right through them. A few will even start to question if they were the one who was out of line. You didn't have to say a word to create this internal turmoil. You just had to deny them the closure of your reaction. The interaction is now orbiting inside their head, draining their energy. What was meant to be a quick power grab becomes a long-term psychological tax they have to pay. You, on the other hand, have already moved on with your day. Your mind is free because you never entered the game. This is the quiet genius of Machiavellian strategy. Let your opponent's mind do the work of defeating itself. They become haunted by the ghost of an interaction you never truly had. And the longer the silence persists, the heavier that ghost becomes, until they are forced to either seek you out for closure or live with the lingering, unsettling feeling that they tried to challenge someone far beyond their reach. Number 5. The unmasking provocateurs rely on a cloak of plausible deniability. Their attacks are often subtle, a backhanded compliment, a sarcastic joke, a question laced with contempt. This ambiguity is their armor. If you react with anger, they can immediately put you on the defensive. It was just a joke. Why are you so sensitive? I was just asking a question. You're so paranoid. The focus of the conversation instantly shifts from their poor behavior to your overreaction. You become the problem. Their provocation vanishes behind the smokescreen of your emotional response. But your silence completely dismantles this strategy. By refusing to react, you refuse to become the smokescreen. You leave their provocation standing in the middle of the room, naked and exposed for everyone to see. And because their first subtle attempt didn't work, they are forced to try again. This time the cloak slips a little. The joke is less funny, the question more pointed. They try again. The cloak falls further. With each successive attempt to get a rise out of you, their intention becomes clearer to everyone watching. Their initial subtlety transforms into visible desperation. Without you saying a word, their own behavior becomes a testimony against them. Observers see one person calm and composed, and another person growing increasingly agitated and transparent in their attempts to provoke. The question in the observer's mind shifts from, "What did they do to him?" to "Why is he so obsessed with her?" The provocateur, in their escalating frustration, paints a target on their own back. They create their own reputation as someone who is unable to control their impulses, someone who is desperate for attention. Your silence has become a spotlight, and they are dancing wildly within it, revealing every flaw and every hidden motive. Machiavelli noted, "Men are quick to judge by appearances, but the truth of one's character will always out." By refusing to hide their behavior behind your reaction, you force their character to step into the light. They are unmasked not by your accusation, but by the sheer force of their own exposed neediness. You haven't defeated them in an argument, you've simply stood still and let their own shadow consume them. Number 6. The authority of the unmoved. What is the ultimate source of authority? Is it a title, a loud voice, a proven track record? Those things help, but they are all secondary to one fundamental quality: emotional immunity. This is the unshakable sense that a person's internal state is not up for public negotiation. Most people leak there. Authority with every flinch, every defensive word, every visible sign that they are affected by external pressure. They might be brilliant, but if a simple insult can make them sweat, their brilliance becomes secondary. The subconscious mind of an observer registers one thing: this person can be controlled from the outside. Emotional immunity creates the opposite impression. It suggests that your center of gravity is located somewhere beyond the reach of petty games. When someone tries to provoke you and finds no emotional handle to grab onto, the interaction becomes psychologically remarkable. The expected reaction: frustration, anger, defensiveness simply isn't there. There is only stillness. This stillness is a form of nonverbal communication that is more powerful than any shouted slogan. It says, "You have no access." And the human mind, in its eternal search for signals of strength, interprets this lack of access as a sign of immense power. Think of two people in a crisis. One is panicking, making phone calls, raising their voice. The other is silent, observing, breathing slowly. Who do you instinctively look to for leadership? The calm one. Their calm is not passivity, it is a declaration of stability. It is a signal that they have resources the panicking person lacks: internal resources. This perception alone begins to shape reality. People defer to the calm individual, ask for their opinion, and follow their lead. The calm person didn't ask for this authority. It was projected onto them by the contrast of their own composure. Emotional immunity also rewires the provocateur's approach to you. Once they realize their usual tools don't work, that your emotions are not a keyboard they can play, they have to recalibrate. They may become more cautious, more respectful, or simply quieter around you. They have learned that in your psychological space their old tactics are useless. You have trained them without a single word of confrontation on how to treat you. This is the foundation of genuine authority. It isn't taken by force, it is assumed by presence. As Machiavelli implied, the prince who cannot command himself will never truly command others. Your self-command becomes the silent law others instinctively follow. Number 7. The reversal of gravity at the beginning of any attempted provocation. The initiator believes they hold the gravitational pull. They launch the attack, so they are the center of the interaction, and you are a moon, expected to orbit their gravity with a reaction. They are the speaker, you are the listener. They are the actor, you are the reactor. This is the frame they have established. But when you offer them silence, you refuse to enter their orbit. You remain stationary. And in the physics of social dynamics, something strange then happens. If you do not orbit them, they must orbit you to try and get your attention. This is the silence reversal. The hunter becomes the seeker. The person who was trying to provoke you suddenly finds themselves waiting for you, waiting for a word, a glance, any signal that you are still in the same reality as them. They wanted to control the conversation, but now they are the ones clinging to the hope that it continues. Their confidence, which felt so solid a moment ago, begins to dissolve in the expanding space of your non-response. They may try to fill the awkward gap. They might mumble a clarification, attempt a weak joke to lighten the mood, or pivot the conversation to something safer. All of these are tells. They are the actions of someone who has lost control of the frame and is desperate to re-establish it. They are now chasing your attention, and the person doing the chasing is, by default, in the lower power position. You have become the sun, and they are now a small, anxious planet trying to get back into your orbit. The silence has done something remarkable. It has flipped the script. You are no longer the defendant in their court, they, the petitioner in yours. They need your reaction to validate their existence in that moment, and you are under no obligation to give it. As Machiavelli stated, the one who controls the frame controls the outcome. Your silence is the ultimate frame control. It says, this interaction exists only if I decide to participate, and I have decided not to. The power of selection is the highest power of all. You are not choosing between winning and losing a fight, you are choosing whether the fight exists at all. And by choosing that it does not, you leave them fighting with a ghost, while you walk away with your energy, your peace, and your power completely intact. Most people are marionettes, their strings pulled by every critic, every hater, every passing voice that seeks to provoke them. They spend a lifetime dancing for an audience that pays nothing and deserves nothing. But you now understand a deeper truth. Your attention is a sovereign territory, and you are its only gatekeeper. Machiavellian strategy isn't about learning to attack, it's about learning the profound discipline of non-engagement. It's the discipline to see the hook and refuse the bait. It's the discipline to find strength in stillness when every instinct screams at you to move. Silence is not the absence of power, it is its highest expression. It removes the manipulator's reward, starves the provocateur's ego, and forces them to confront their own irrelevance in your world. The core truth is deceptively simple. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. When they cannot move you, they cannot control you. And when they cannot control you, the entire architecture of their power crumbles. If this reframing of social dynamics resonated with you, hit the like button to help others on Winds of Thought find this perspective. Share this with someone who needs to understand that their silence is a weapon. And subscribe to join us as we continue to map the hidden landscapes of power and human behavior. We don't deal in surface-level motivation here, we dissect the architecture of perception itself. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their storm, remember this: the person who masters their own reaction masters the interaction, and the person who masters the interaction writes the final outcome.